Kim Kardashian is? Okay, so most people do. So I very recently received an email from my mother-in-law in which she asked me to remove the postpartum shapewear or corset from my baby registry because it felt inappropriate and unrelated to my baby. She then proceeded to tell me of her friend's reaction to me wanting postpartum shapewear as a very unsolicited warning. Quote, "When my friend saw the postpartum shapewear on your list, she said, 'OMG, is Kamee like the Kardashians? All that vanity and urgency to get back into shape so fast after the baby?' I gasped at the comment and then told her how much you hate the vanity and vapidness of the Kardashians and how horrified you are by them when they purport to represent Armenian culture. But I thought you should know that she had that reaction and other people may as well, which is unfortunate because it isn't who you are at all." End quote. As a person who is currently carrying their first child, I am constantly fighting against the subversive erasure of my experience and well-being as a woman and mother as I transition into motherhood. So this email made me feel many different things that I won't outline right now. But it did make me realize that articulating my thoughts on Kim Kardashian and what she represents is no easy task, and very often misunderstood without context. So to be clear, I don't actually hate the vanity and vapidness because I realize that this is a widely misconstrued interpretation of femme representing folks like Kim, and horrified is not the word I would use in reaction to how the Kardashians purport Armenian culture. It's more like fascinated. Just to note, although I realize the focus of this conference is post-genocidal gender perspectives, this aspect is a part of my paper that I won't be delving deeply into here today. I'd like to honor where I'm at with the subject most currently and what I'm most interested in personally. So my initial reaction to the Mother Armenia episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians was admittedly horrified. I felt a lot of unpacked anger towards the Kardashians for some time, even before they graced Armenia with their presence. All too often do I find myself in situations with strangers, particularly men, who, after I tell them that I'm Armenian, they say, "Oh, like Kim Kardashian?" Then tilting their heads to the side to confirm that I share a heritage with her. And I mean ass. So, all too often do folks, mostly Armenians, react in defense of her when I try to explain why this constant comparison and association is problematic. She's a brilliant businesswoman. She's doing so much for Armenian recognition, and who cares if she became famous because of a sex tape? Now people know about Armenia. And sometimes, what are you doing for the cause compared to her? When I was venting about this to my friend, she asked me, "Why do you hate her so much?" And that's when I realized that there was something bigger happening here. I'm not just being a hater, and this isn't just about Kim Kardashian. It finally dawned on me after all this time that I had been projecting my anger and resentment toward the isms and phobias that persist in the Armenian communities I have come from, belonged to, raged against, and long fought to reconcile. I'm talking specifically about racism, sexism, homophobia, and transphobia. Kim's trip to Armenia, for me, exemplified the clashing paradigms within Armenian identities and how it was being cloaked in the guise of nationalism and publicity around genocide recognition. So this is neither a witch hunt, nor is it internalized sexism wrapped in a cliche woman-on-woman hate. What I'm hoping to do here is understand the nuanced causality around the existence of a megalith in the form of Kim Kardashian as a metaphorical catalyst to a long-awaited shift from the hypocrisy that exists within Armenian society and culture. To be clear, when I refer to Kim Kardashian as a dark horse, it is neither a reference to the dark element of her exoticization, which is fucked up, nor an allusion to her rise to A-lister celebrity status. I believe Kim is a dark horse specific to her transformation in the eyes of the Armenian population. Armen Arakelian writes of this shift. Before stepping onto Armenian soil, she was perceived as a woman of loose morals in the Armenian public eye. A woman, given her entire nature, lie, and conduct, didn't fit within the entrenched mold of an Armenian woman in our society. However, during her time here in Armenia, she has easily transformed from a porno star, as described by many, into a heroic woman concerned with national affairs and one exhibiting a will to struggle. So I was really excited to find evidence inside this idolization of Kim Kardashian of how cheap and fickle the Armenian patriarchal praxis is, for them to sell it off so easily with their sexist and anti-Black values. And at what price? Because apparently she plays for our team now, and all sins shall be forgiven in the name of popularity and genocide recognition. It feels obvious to say this, but Armenians absolutely do not and should not need the Kardashians to put Armenia on the map, because it's already on the map. Yet, the root of the argument on whether or not Armenians need Kim Kardashian to embrace their identities, their bodies, and their culture, and what that looks like, lives inside a discussion on wider systemic, cultural, and societal issues, which I outline in my paper at greater length. In my opinion, Kim's metamorphosis into the Princess of Armenia embodies the double standards that characterize certain aspects of Armenian heteronormative culture. And here, I can't help but think of cognitive dissonance and how intensely it plays out here. The blood drained from my face the first time I watched a clip of Kim Kardashian in Armenia, being hugged and kissed by an elderly local woman who tells her in broken English, "Kim, you are the best girl in the world." A flash of images floods before my eyes. Families who have disowned their children for marrying an Odar or non-Armenian, let alone a Black man. Queer and trans folks who haven't spoken to their parents in years because they were disowned when they came out. Have Armenians simply moved on from the fact that Kim gained notoriety from a leaked sex tape and is currently married to a man of color, then proceeded to glorify and welcome her and her family with open, loving arms? What is happening inside this discrepancy, and how are paradigms clashing and interacting with one another? Armenian audiences have accepted Kim as their own, regardless of her previously condemned past, because she has shared the spotlight with the Armenian cause, and more importantly, because she has embraced us. So it becomes easier for us to embrace ourselves. I delve deeper into this in the paper by exploring and breaking down Kardashian's Armenian audience and the various entry points of identification based on gender, sexuality, ethnicity, socio-political aspects, geography, historical background, etc. But for now, I'd like to focus on the image of the dark horse, as it reveals itself here a little bit more clearly in all its glory of clashing paradigms, a necessary chaos in order to make space for an emerging paradigm. Many Armenians, whether they are fans of Kim or not, seem to be drawn to her as their truth, as a moth to the flame. According to Meher Hagopian, this flame will force us to contest the evil inside us, he writes. We are a society of double standards, and our hospitality and humanism is selective. We say we are family-oriented and children-loving, yet we disown our son when we learn he's gay. We claim to adore our mothers, but we have one of the highest rates of sex-selective abortion of girls in the world. At least one of the reasons that our society is closed is that it has rarely been confronted and almost never chooses to confront itself. Perhaps that is the main value of the visit of the Kardashians and West in the long term, the challenge it posed to the societal norms built on an aforementioned binary oppositions. Perhaps it is time to coin the expression of the Kardashian effect. I can't help but think of Kim's image as the personification of a psychology of the margin, a concept put forth by philosopher Helene Lorenz, or as Gloria Anzaldúa describes it, where duality is transcended. Kim has become a house of mirrors in which her audience projects a spectrum of images from heroine to harlot. Inside this is a broken dichotomy, because whether she has crafted this image of herself or we have crafted it for her, an opportunity presents itself to face and take on an alternate perspective. Similar to the Jungian concept of a transcendent function or a third way between extremes, Kim's transformation has shed light on the fickleness of the binaries within Armenian society and culture. Therefore, the winning prize of the dark horse is in fact not only hers to claim, but for all of the Armenian women, queers, and those who live on the fringe in our communities, the so-called others who have suffered under the hand of the Armenian patriarchy, those who can, if they wish, look to Kim as a heroine and champion of their cause. It's interesting, when I told my father that I would be writing a paper on Kim Kardashian, his first reaction was to warn me against airing out our dirty laundry. This only affirmed my belief of what Kim represents to Armenians today. By calling out Armenian people on their misogynist perceptions of women, I was not painting an image of togetherness and solidarity with my people. My father and I discussed this sentiment and came to the conclusion that naming the issues that clearly exist in our societal values does not make me a traitor to my culture. In fact, if we are to authentically live up to these ideas of togetherness and inclusivity, we must try to unroot and eradicate the weeds of sexist and racist ideas and learn how to be together. Paradigms are clashing and an alternative will reveal itself. This alternative forces us to come to terms with the fact that folks who have been oppressed by sexism and misogyny are real, they're complicated, and they have a voice. Whichever it is, I feel thrilled about it, elated in fact, because it means that the ground under us is shifting and there is fresh earth peeking through the cracks. I can see it now. The boat we are rocking has a figurehead and it is oh so glorious. It's Kim Kardashian, black hair blowing in the wind with a profile matching that of the border outline of the Republic of Armenia. Whether we like it or not, Kim has set a precedent that cannot be swept under the rug. Keeping this in mind, we should not forget about and continue to honor the folks who have struggled to fight this oppression as well as gain recognition of the Armenian genocide before Kim swept the spotlight. There is a deep and current history of radical movements whose aim has been to fight tooth and nail to break through the oppression of and within Armenian lives and identities. Yet here are some realities we cannot escape. Kim Kardashian is no activist, and the world will continue to reflect onto her a plethora of social and psychological processes and identifications. The way in which both audiences and she herself as an individual have situated her image into the complex socio-political and historical narratives within Armenian communities has its problematic elements. She is, however, in the spotlight for the time being, and there is something nuanced to be harvested from that reality. In conclusion, it's easy to disavow the truths about Kim Kardashian that we are not willing to face just because she has now graced us with her presence and publicized the genocide, a crucial part of our political and cultural narrative. It is even easier to disassociate ourselves from the evils that exist within our own families and societal dynamics. What's difficult is follow-through. I echo the words of many writers and activists who have prompted us to face these evils, question their roots, and call us into a reorientation and refragmentation of what has been lost and broken. I do not and cannot hate Kim Kardashian. Deepening my understanding of what she represents to the world, to Armenians, and to me, has transformed me into some sort of fan. Not as an object to impose subjective realities onto, or as a vehicle for publicizing Armenian culture and politics, but as a symbol of a subversive dark horse that, perhaps for the time being, represents the fight against our patriarchal values and double standards that very much so exist in our communities. Thank you.